Richard, yesterday I heard you returned over to Scranton University. Tell us, what did you find? How did it go?
Yeah, so we saw Brianna again, that student we interviewed last time, and she brought a friend of hers, Mike McBride, and we had another conversation at the Northern Lights. It's like a coffee house, basically, and we had a good conversation.
Oh, excellent. So tell us more about what you uncovered.
Yeah. Well, I have, our tech team recorded the discussion, so I'd like to play a clip from our discussion.
It could be good to teach other people who are not directly involved, like, hey, this is happening, this is going on, but I don't think that's the right approach to be taking for that, to show outright that level of death and destruction. But overall, I think it's terrible. I think it's a needless war. I don't think it should have ever occurred in the first place.
Okay, so I want to show you, just to see what... Look, we're all Americans, right? And so we have not had a civil war inside our country for 150 years. And the idea that people want to attack us or kill us is something that we don't really think about unless we go to a horror movie, basically, right? So let me show you. I'm going to show you a couple. Actually, I have a few videos. Well, let me show you this one first. Okay, so this is a video. There's a little bit. I'm warning you. This is shocking content, but this is showing the parading of a young Israeli woman. Let me just bring this. Okay. Let's play here. Okay, this is a young woman from the Nova Festival. So they raped and killed her, and then they're driving through the streets of Gaza with her, naked body, and but they're actually proud of what they're proud of this. Yeah. So I saw one comment that the Nazis killed millions of Jews and other ethnicities as well, but they hid what they did. They did not publicize and proudly show what they were doing. They hid it. But in this case, you have people who think killing innocent civilians is something that their religion teaches them is a good thing to do. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about not so much the detail. I mean, people could debate whether Israeli using the best tactics to fight against Hamas or not, and I'm not a military expert, and I really wouldn't know. But what about this bigger issue, which is that we're dealing with people who think that raping women, killing them, and then they're proud of what they've done, and they think their religion approves of what they're doing. I'm just curious if you have a thought.
Well, for one, going back to how they feel proud of this and they think it's right, and they think their religion, they think they're doing something good for themselves. For me, and what I think about that, going back to the last time I was here, again, it's not right. It's something, for me, what I go for, not religion-wise, but my morals, especially since I'm a woman myself, it's hard to see and hard to think about that they think this is correct, and and especially the women who live there as well. I'm trying to find the correct wording for this, but you have them thinking, oh well, I'm going to be rewarded once I go on to maybe the next life, or when I see their high, my higher up. Again, it's not right, and especially going back to this video, I feel like I actually have seen this specific one. I think this specific video, this was a 19, 20-year-old girl who was visiting her friend in the area it was supposed to be in, the
South Israel, and then I think she might have been at that festival. I think she's originally from Germany, and then.
Oh yeah. So when they were going to, she was visiting a friend for the festival and everything. It's hard to really it's hard to see a girl my age just trying to have fun, and then they go on and disrupt, and then put this on on media, thinking this is okay. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get publicity, and you're gonna have everyone see it, but especially her family, imagine her family just seeing this out of nowhere, and then where's my daughter? But yeah, no, that's what I have to say for now.
Okay, Mike.
Thank you. I agree with what you've said. It truly is disgusting to watch. And I heard about this case as well. It's a level of depravity that I guess we really haven't seen in a while. It's truly awful. And the whole idea of using religion as a scapegoat of some sort to justify something like this is even more disgusting. And that I feel like that one has been in use for a very long time at this point, using religion to justify something awful like that. There is no morality. There is no compassion. Obviously, it's just, I don't even know. It's unbelievably gut-wrenching to witness atrocities such as that, and it really does bring into this question into the picture. Is it then justified to attack people who are doing this? I've always thought that war, attempt to stay away from that, attempt to find a peaceful solution. But when you have people committing atrocities like that, you can't sit still. You can't sit there and watch, because that is vile. It's inhumane. It's so subhuman, it's not even funny.
Part of the problem, and these students are seeing it, which is, this is not your typical crime that just occurs. There's a deep-rooted training, a systematic overtake of one's mind, it seems, through generations, to be able to use religion as an authorization to commit crime through hatred.
Yeah, now this is a very important issue, because in the Old Testament there is approval for, according to the scriptures in the Old Testament, God instructs the Israelites to attack certain city-states or nations and to obliterate them. But it's very specific. And then there are other groups that God says, don't touch them, do not kill them, do not attack them. So in the Koran, it's a little bit different. It seems to be more of a blank check. It is true, in the beginning of the Koran, there are scriptures which talk about peace and getting along with each other, with the Jews and Christians. But in the latter parts of the Koran, which I believe were written when Muhammad went to Medina, it is much more kill the Jews, cut their necks. It is much more. And actually, Muhammad himself, there was one Jewish tribe which originally were allies of Muhammad, and then they turned against him. And then I believe it was about 800 Jewish soldiers who had surrendered to Muhammad and his forces. And he personally oversaw the beheading of all 800 of those Jews. Okay, that is the founder. And then his statements: kill the Jews, strike their necks. So kill the infidels. That is in the latter parts of the Quran, which are considered to be authoritative for. Now, I don't believe that all Muslims think this way, although 75% of the they recently did a survey. They found 75% of the residents in Gaza approve of what Hamas did on October 7th, and there were civilians from Gaza who entered in. The fence was down. I think even one group of civilians, they had a bulldozer too, and they pushed the fence down. They went in their flip-flops and their jeans, and they were looting and in some cases actually killing people too.
So it's not surprising that this young lady who was attacked so viciously, raped, an innocent woman, to have her head chopped off and paraded around the town as a victory for Allah. And I want everyone to think about that.
Right.
A victory for your God. How could that be possibly identified and accepted among society today, any society?
Yeah, I think that, especially for those of us who live in America or in the West, we have certain assumptions about, civilized behavior, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, due process of law. We have certain assumptions that we can walk down the street without being attacked by somebody. There might be a robbery or something, but we don't expect to be attacked because of our skin color or our religion. Obviously, it's not that way in certain parts of the Middle East. And there is the third commandment in the Bible, which says that thou shalt not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Now, Dennis Prager, he says the translation actually should be, thou shalt not carry the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Meaning, it's not about whether you say a curse word or something like that. He says, you should not do something evil and attribute it to God. That is you are ascribing to God an act of evil and saying that your God told you to do that.
Let me ask you, Richard, because what you just said to me right now makes so much sense. And you have generations of people in that area who have been raised as children in hatred for the Jews. And as you've identified, I think any reasonable person can see that there should not be a religion, anyone who believes in a religion or believes that God would want you to hurt any miracle of life, regardless of faith, color, or anything else. How do we possibly, because I see the remedy is not just retaliation, which Mike brought up. I mean, how could you not retaliate? But there's a deeper rooted problem, which is how do we start correcting the minds and the hearts huge amount of people. I mean, right now I think there probably maybe in the world more Muslims than Christians. You know,
Almost. It's
getting there.
1.4 billion, I think.
and again,
So,
no
yeah.
offense to them, but if you have a fraction of those people who believe that Allah wants you to behead, you know, infidels, okay, there we have a huge problem that retaliation will not fix.
Right. Okay, and we need to remember, you know, some people say, well, Israel, you know, I'm not Jewish, I don't really care, or I am Jewish, I still don't care about Israel, I don't like their policies. Believe me, this is not just against Jews. These similar acts are taking place in Azerbaijan, Sudan, Nigeria, many nations where there are large Muslim populations, where we consider them to be Islamist or radical Muslim groups. They are actually doing the same thing to Christians. And there were the Yazidis, right, in Iraq under ISIS. So, think about this. Imagine that Israel was able to eliminate every single Hamas terrorist tomorrow morning. They're all gone. Has the problem been solved?
No.
No, because you have 3/4 of the population who think that what the Hamas terrorists did was actually a good thing.
So they become more like martyrs in their minds.
Yeah, honor the martyrs. I have pictures. There are pictures of the protesters in London, in New York City, in Chicago, Paris, all over the world. Honor the martyrs. That anybody who's killed in the act of killing Jews, in this case, is considered to be a martyr.
Well, not only that, from what I understand, is if you become a martyr, I think they support the family. Your family gets treated in this honorable way. And
You
money
get
or something.
payments, monthly payments. Yeah, the Palestine Authority pays the families if you have a son or daughter who did kill Jews, through suicide. Your family gets payments. Yeah.
So going back to this interview, because I find it very fascinating. Number one, I see the psyche of our youth because they're innocent. They haven't been through war. They've lived a pretty cushy life, I think, all our youth. These could be our kids, Richard.
Yeah.
Okay, your average kids.
Right.
And, they start off by saying, which is very natural because we believe in cause and effect. Evil cannot exist unless it's counterintuitive to something evil. I mean, I think we can say that reasonably. So there's both sides, and they try to reason in a way because they're pure. And when you provide and unveil the onion, I like to think to call it, they're shocked,
Right.
because they're recognizing that things aren't always fair. Okay, and as we get older and live our lives, we certainly recognize that.
Right.
Right? But they're like sponges wanting to learn that information. And then, to me, the most fascinating thing is their reaction and understanding of learning what exactly is going on. Do you think enough of this is going on right now in our universities? Is it happening at all, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, they're hearing a certain narrative. The narrative is that Israel is a colonialist, settler, occupying nation, and the Palestinians are the victims. That's the basic model that they've been told. And it's ironic because you had the Queers for Palestine demonstration, which these are gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgender students who are demonstrating in support of Palestinians, not realizing that they would be thrown over the edge of the building if they publicly identify themselves as practicing homosexuals. they would be thrown over the edge of the building, and they would be murdered.
I think it's safe to say
Yeah.
we may have parts of this world that have a misrepresentation of religion, and we certainly have a misrepresentation of social standards here in this country. There is definitely, I think, confusion among our youth.
Right.
I think we need better leaders, whether it be in our churches, in our places of worship. We certainly need to be empowering families at this time, I think more so than ever, with truth and support. Because the reality is we trust our educational places just like we trust our places of worship. And we have to recognize that they're not all the same.
No, I think that, no, I will say I believe that there are, look, there are 20% of the population of Israel is Arab. Most of those are Muslim Arabs. They're working in Israel. There are Muslim doctors and nurses. There are Muslim members in the Israeli parliament and also on the Israeli Supreme Court. So there are Muslims who do not think this way, but I believe that even those Muslims who basically in their hearts affirm the Western values, which are based on, I believe, Judeo-Christian view that of the dignity of human beings, they have to be careful. Maybe they can speak here, but there are certain parts of the world where you keep your mouth shut, because if you're seen as, you could be seen as an apostate Muslim. You're not a Muslim who affirms the hard line that these Muslims do, and you are denounced, and you also can be killed, actually.
This goes back to my original question from our last interview, Richard, which is, where is the strength in leadership today? Anywhere. I remember Netanyahu showing some strength at certain times, especially when Trump was president. I remember certain leaders who presented in good faith guidance and wanting to resolve issues. I don't remember seeing that the last few years. Where is the much needed leadership to sit down at the table and say, what do we need to do here?
Well, I think that the Israelis, they were lulled into a sense of, you could say, hopefulness. They actually, for about 2 years, there were not many attacks along the Gaza border. There were about 20,000 Gaza residents who were working in South Israel. They would come across the border, and they would be working in the kibbutz, doing various jobs. And the Israelis also, they were hiring Palestinians from the West Bank and coming into Israel and working in Israel and sending a lot of money back to, bringing money back to their families in the West Bank. And I think that Israel thought, well, we can have mutual prosperity. We can hire, Muslims, Palestinians, and we can work together, and more of them will realize that we can prosper together. And then there were 4 nations that signed the Abraham Accords, and I think the real reason this all happened is because Saudi Arabia was about to sign the Abraham Accord, a peace treaty with Israel to normalize relations and have more trade, and Iran did not want that. So, there are forces that we cannot see directly that wanted this to happen. Let me show you. I found some clips last night of the kind of education that young Palestinians receive, and I think if we watch this, I think our audience will see why Why do the Hamas terrorists, why are they so proud of what they've done? So let's watch the clips.
I would be very curious to see, because you can't fathom that children would be exposed to this type of information.
My friend, Case, do you have Jews over there in Jenin? Not now. I heard that they go over there every day. Yes, but they aren't there here now. Listen, my friend, make a fist like this. They come to the refugee camp. Next time they come, punch them. Turn their faces into tomatoes in order to liberate Palestine. Rowan, I want to tell him to pick up a stone. And when the Jews come, to take it and throw it. That's right. If the neighbors are Jewish, he should beat them up. If his neighbors are Jewish or Zionist, that goes without saying. So why do you want to become a policewoman? Like who? Like my uncle? Who is your uncle? His name is Ahmad. He's a policeman? What do police do? They catch thieves and troublemakers. And they shoot Jews, right? Right. You want to be like him? Allah willing, when you grow up, I will shoot the Jews. All of them? Yes. Good. And who discovered your talent for poetry? Mom. Mom, may Allah grant long life to such a mother, Muhammad. Okay, Muhammad, let's hear the poem. Jerusalem, I shall redeem you with my soul and my blood. I shall liberate you from the Jews. By means of the Al-Qassam brigades, of course. I bring glad tidings to our prisoners. Salvation is near. What do you want to be when you grow up? A member of the Al-Qassam brigades. Fine. And you, Zachariah, what would you like to be? An engineer. Why do you want to become an engineer? So I can blow up the Jews. You want to blow up the Jews? Sons of Zion, oh, the most evil creatures, oh, barbaric apes. Jerusalem rejects you and vomits your filth. Impure ones, Jerusalem is like a pious virgin. Oh, filthy ones, Jerusalem is pure and clean. I do not dread barbarism. As long as I have my holy book in my city, in my heart. As long as my arms can throw stones. As long as I am free and do not sell out the cause. I will not dread your masses. I will never fear the gun. I will never fear the gun. Excuse me, aren't you afraid to come here? I'm not. What do I have to God be afraid of? Their filthy weapons? Am I supposed to be afraid of the weapons they fire at us? Never. We're fighting for Al-Aqsa. Martyrs in the millions are marching to Jerusalem. The return marches today. I say to everybody, Palestine forever. Jerusalem belongs to us, not to the filthy Israel. Let the occupation army come here and face me without its weapons. You'll be scared and run crying to your mother, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. They are using their weapons. They're using them now. I'm not afraid of Israel. They're afraid of us. We are here, sisters of heroes. We're all like men. I say the whole world that we are here to stay. Martyrs in the millions march to Jerusalem. Allah Akbar. Okay, and then it finishes with this, boy, looks like, 8, 9, or 10, with the AK-47.
I'm in shock that you have 4, 5, 6-year-olds in cartoon-style shows that are obviously made like Sesame Street or something,
Right.
Discussing politics and hatred and a plan for warfare against a genocide of people.
Right.
How can we not see that this is a huge problem? And what it leads to is to that young girl who looks like maybe she's 10 or 11
Right.
out there demanding the death of Israel and to go into war willingly to die for Allah. What you said with the third commandment is absolutely prevalent in these videos of training. No God, regardless of his name would or her name, would ever support the attack on life. I mean, it's just anybody with half a reasoning in their mind could see that.
Look, billions of dollars flow from the United States, from Europe, from Norway, and from other Muslim nations. Qatar and other nations are flowing to Palestine and to Gaza. In many cases, the money's not being used to improve the lives of the residents of Palestine or the West Bank and Gaza. It is being used to create a war machine, okay? And that's what we're dealing with. I think we need to wrap our head around the reality that people don't think the same way we do. Okay, I mean, that's in my opinion, that's the first thing we have to understand. These people have been, it's quite interesting actually. None of these other Muslim nations will accept Palestinian refugees. Egypt will not accept any refugees. Jordan will not accept any refugees from Palestine. Why? Because they've had bad experiences in the past. When they accepted Palestinian refugees, they were angry. They were not willing to be absorbed into the Jordanian or the Egyptian nation, and they know how indoctrinated this ideology of hate is very prevalent among Palestinian people.
Yeah, so why would you let a population that it can be criminal and dangerous into your safe society? No one would do that. I mean, that just unless you have no borders.
Unless you're a West European nation or the United States of America, yeah, you wouldn't do that if you were rational. Yeah. So, okay, let me play one more clip from the interview.
Well, apart from everything that's been said, relative to terrorists crossing our border into the United States, that is a terrifying thought, especially when these people are this radical, this, dead set on accomplishing something horrid. And in the videos that you showed us, once again, kids are being taught to hate from such an early age. I mean, this is going to be a generational problem, which scares me even further. Again, it's just very sad to see. It's just very, very sad to see. And as you said, the differences between the state of Israel and the state of Palestine, Israel having and I'm not too aware of the details, but I would assume welcoming Arabs who want peace, who are advocates for, hey, let's settle down a little bit, compared to Palestine, who outwardly kills anyone who does not follow what they follow to a T. It's very easy to compare the current state of Palestine.
What I appreciated is that this Mike, he actually made the connection between Islamist thinking and practice and Nazi Germany. And actually, there was a meeting between Adolf Hitler and the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. I believe it was 1941, and the Grand Mufti came to Berlin and met with Hitler and said, look, we have a lot of Jews in the Middle East, we would like to get rid of them. And apparently Adolf Hitler told him, yeah, once we finish taking care of the Jews in Europe, we'll come to the Middle East and we'll work together to get rid of them. Okay. this is what we're facing. Now, I believe that there are Muslims who are disgusted by this, who would like to see this change. And I mean, if you look, you can see some of them on YouTube. There are some who are talking about their desire to reform Islam, but they are not the predominant viewpoint. I'll just put it that way. Some of them actually are no longer practicing Muslims. They were raised in the Muslim faith, but some of them, it's ironic. Actually, in the nation of Iran, there was just a survey done, and in the nation of Iran, which has had this radical Islamist theocracy since, 1979, and there was a lot of support for the Ayatollah when he came in. There a lot of people thought he'd be much better than the Shah of Iran, and who was considered to be kind of like an autocrat and sometimes harsh. So people were very hopeful, but now that how many years later is this? We're talking about 43 years later. Okay, 1/3 of the population of Iran believes in the revolution, and believes in the government, the Muslim theocracy of Iran. 1/3. 1/3 are atheists, and 1/3 are searching. Maybe New Age or looking into Christianity. So think about it. 2/3 of the population of Iran do not agree at all and are sick and tired of this Muslim dictatorship where women are not allowed to. Iran actually was, if you looked at photos of women in Iran in the 1970s before the revolution, basically they looked like women in Europe and in America. They were, you could say, part of the modern world, you could say, and many of them were going to the university and pursuing careers.
Well, that's all very fascinating. Where do you see this going now? I mean, are you planning to go back to Scranton University? And what do you think is the next step, Richard?
Okay. Well, the next step is I want to show you one last clip.
All right.
All right. So, when Israel wants to attack the military base, there's a school right next door, or there's a hospital. This type of thing. Anyway, I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about this.
Well, from seeing the photos of what you had just showed us, our generation, the generation that's right now with TikTok or Instagram or even YouTube now, it boggles my mind that you can see so many kids around our age. Like, yes, they have their own views and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but they don't know the facts leading everything. Especially with TikTok, some kids supporting Osama bin Laden and not knowing who this man is and what he's done. And especially, I've seen actually recently some people who go on, what are they called, like little riots or just holding up signs saying, free Palestine, saying all that. I see these videos and I'm like, they don't know the actual facts going on, and sometimes I just want to actually say something to them. And nowadays you can't really say anything, which is interesting because we have this thing of freedom of speech, but if you speak, you're immediately wrong. Your opinion is wrong. You can't speak anymore, because once you speak, someone will either fight you or yell at you or say something very grotesque. And especially like with college campuses going around chanting things that, again, they don't know the facts of. It's scary. And
People my age, and to watch others who go to other colleges saying things like this, I mean, there just appears to be perhaps not a lack of education, but I mean that's really what it seems. There is just a whole lack of knowledge, lack of, you know, or perhaps there is a lack of a want to understand factual evidence. Perhaps it's easier just to say, hey, you know, hurt these people. But seeing people, you know, brandishing swastikas, brandishing signs that are outwardly condemning Jews and stating that, you know, the eradication of the Jewish population is a good thing. That's as you said, grotesque. It's very, very ugly, and again, disappointing to see that people my age are saying things like that. It's just very, very, very sad to see that, and to see such a large amount of people, such a large amount of people following that. And as you had said earlier, Palestinians will kill you over homosexuality. They have no issue doing that, and yet there's an entire group supporting Palestine. It just makes no sense to me. It truly seems like there is just a cover lowered over people's eyes. You know, they don't want to pursue any factual evidence further. They don't want to do any of that, and that is really, really harming, I guess, the overall mentality of people my age, because the more people support this, the more people will be like, oh, these guys are supporting it, I guess I should be too. It becomes a domino effect in a sense, and that I don't know what the future looks like for that. It does not bode well, and it scares me.
So now that we've depressed our entire audience, I just want to say for myself, I do believe in God, and I believe that we see what evil is doing, but we should remember that God is also working. That's what I believe, that God is working, and sometimes I believe God can use something like this to open people's eyes to realize that they need to think more deeply about actually what they've just kind of gone along with. So hopefully more people will kind of become more aware of what the issues really are. In my view, the issue is everyone has human dignity because everyone is a creation of God. And if you have that perspective, then if that's your starting point, that's a good starting point for human rights and for treating people with respect.
And we can disagree all day, but we have to agree to disagree and be civil about it. I can hate you and walk away. I shouldn't want to cut your head off and be happy about it and parade it across the streets.
Yeah.
Now, there's another issue that Mike brought up, which I think was very astute of him, and really speaks to how much, if you education that you can provide to youth, and they can really, really make smart conclusions about, which really impressed me with both these students, which is, that there is no easy answer. But the fact that these institutions, what are they doing to provide any education or discussion about facts? So you have, and we're at the end of times. This is very clear to me from everything that you're showing me, Richard, because what's good is being deemed bad and what's bad is deemed good. There's a whole lot of confusion there, and we see that in our institutions. So the fact that some of our students or youth are displaying the swastika, but they're left-leaning, right? When we are being called on the right, some of us on the right are called Nazis, you know. So, but in fact, they're celebrating that, but we're being identified for that. So,
Yeah.
where is these discussions? Where are these conferences being held in our universities for people looking for education or at least information where they could come to their own conclusions? Does that exist? And if not, is there a real systematic takeover of the minds of our youth in this country?
Oh, look, there's the narrative multiculturalism, which tells a lie that all cultures are basically the same. There are no significant, important differences between cultures. We shouldn't be so arrogant as to think that our culture is superior in certain ways. Well, look, you have one culture that says, I have a right and an obligation to kill infidels and to kill Jews and Christians, and if I do so, I will be rewarded by Allah. Okay, that is an evil. I'll just say it. That is an evil belief. That is an evil belief. Now, I'm not saying that the Judeo-Christian. Actually, I think the Muslims have one. I believe there's one correct critique that many Muslims are making about the Western world and about America, which is that we have been kind of corrupted. We are not. It's ironic because people think that they're attacking the West because we're Christian civilization. I believe they're attacking the West because we're not a Christian civilization. We've abandoned the teachings, scriptural beliefs. We are the main exporter of pornography throughout the world. High rates of sex trafficking of children. High rates of pedophilia. I think that we in the West, look, we live in we've been blessed to live in a prosperous nation. We haven't had a war within our borders for 150 years, unlike many, many other countries. We've been involved with a lot of wars, but we've sent our young men to fight in other nations. Of course, they come back and they're damaged physically and, psychologically and spiritually. That's a whole nother issue. But we're having problems in the world, and I think that is a correct critique. I would say Muslims look at us and they see us as corrupt. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need to really reevaluate, if we are Christians, we need to reevaluate what does it mean to... Actually, Jordan Peterson was asked a question about whether he's a Christian, whether he believes in God. And his question, his answer was very interesting. He said, what do you mean by the word believe? Because then he said, it should be a fearful thing to say that you believe in God. Because obviously, if you say you believe in God, then your life should be very different from the other people around you who could care less, right? Or who are lapsed in their faith, right? So Christians, we need to reevaluate what does it mean to be a follower of Jesus Christ? And that's something that I think we really need to think about.
And are we living that life? And if so, are we passing that to our children and making sure that the next generation continues to live through those values? Or are we portrayed in the media and throughout the world and as one side? And maybe that's also dangerous. because they really don't know what the West is. You know, they say that Israel is the small devil and that America is the big devil.
Right.
Well, us Americans who are just trying to live our lives and raise our families under the eyes of God, I certainly don't see my family being evil like that, but recognize that there are entities within our government, there are entities within our society that are getting attention, aren't they?
Yeah, I think a lot of people around the world, they look at our TV shows, movies, and what the media says about who we are and things that we care about. I don't believe that really represents the heartland of the United States. The patriots, and I believe there are many sincere Christians who are not represented in the TV shows anymore or in our movies. They're ridiculed, and well, our own FBI is saying that they're potential domestic terrorists.
Yeah, who wants to go to a school board if you're a potential terrorist after that?
I know,
right?
you're a very dangerous woman, Anastasia.
Yeah,
I have to warn our audience, she's dangerous.
Listen, you poke that mama bear too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Be careful what you wish for. But thank you so much, Richard, for this in-depth look and research that you've provided. And, you know, I say congratulations to these students who are bold enough to speak out.
Right.
And I hope we find more people in society, not just in the universities, but I think it's very important that their voices are heard and that we understand what's going on in their minds right now. And that'll help us also in our relationship building within our own communities. Thank you so much, because you never let us forget, Richard, to hold the line.
Hold the line. Thank you.